Negroid, Caucasoid, Mongloid are legit terms to me. I don't give a damn about what anybody else is saying. That's my opinion. Let's talk about it after a few minutes of this song. Let me build the beat.
So close, Chris and I, too close, it happened naturally. I cry because he has a wife and son. Oh, can't stand that he likes me. Told me Tuesday, couldn't see me. Want anything to connect us, let it happen. We pass each other every day. I can't avoid when he comes my way. Can't come in between him and his wife. I want to see him anyway, so I'm after this. I can't stop those vicious thoughts to get in. Let it be. I just wanna see him. If it comes, I just wanna roll out naturally. Let it happen. Let it happen. Let it be. I just wanna treat him nicely. I just wanna show him nicely. Let it happen. Let it happen. I'm attracted to him 'cause he has a wife. Convinced that there are feelings for me too. Funny, we are the same. Oh, I take it closer, closer than friends. 'Cause we both alike and have so much in common. Can I keep it hidden? What's supposed to happen? I just wanna do him one time. I just wanna rub him all night. Let it happen. Let it happen. Ooh, I just wanna show him nice things. I just wanna keep him tightly. So let it happen. Let it happen. He's married. He's married. Baby, he's married. I want him anyway, so what I do. I don't mind. Oh, baby. I don't mind. I don't mind. I can't make up my mind. So let it. Ooh, so let it. I know what happened. I know what to do. I need it. I want it. I need it every day. So he's exciting, so inviting, and I want him. Make him mine all the time. Oh, baby, oh yes. I just wanna see him one time. I just wanna rock his world. I just wanna roll out with him. It happened. I just wanna see him one night. I just wanna take him home. I just wanna rock him one night. Let it be, let it be. Oh, yeah. Let it be. He will know what he needs. Let it be. He will know what he needs. Let it be. He will know what he needs. Let it be.
All right, all right. That song is called Let It Happen by Toy Horn. One of my favorite songs. One of my favorite underground songs. All right. So, as we see, let me shut my door. The title says, are Negroid, Caucasoid, and Mongoloid terms still used? Right? I say yes, is my answer. Now, I understand that they're outdated terms, but I have to come on here and explain why I use them, right? And that others use them, especially in forensic anthropology. They can't help but use those terms and operate under them terms. I'll show and prove. Now, why am I making this video? Right? When I made the video called Black Egypt Debunked, it said the ancient Egyptians are not black, which I stand on. All of a sudden, to muddy the waters and cloud things because people were in denial and to throw me off or to spite me, all of a sudden people start acting like they didn't know what a black person is no more. Oh, black is a social construct. Therefore, if there's no people called black people, and if it's just a social construct, therefore, Black Egypt can't be debunked, or whoever I'm talking about is irrelevant because black is a social construct and there are no black people. This is what people began to do and play these mind games with y'all, right? Black is a social construct, it's no, therefore, to spite me, okay? So, I said, let me take it a step further then. I started saying black and or negroid. They are not black or negroid people, the ancient Egyptians. Oh, negroids, that's an outdated term. Stop using it, Chief X. Stop using Caucasoid and negroid. Oh, you can't win for losing with these cats. So they're all over the place trying to muddy the waters to subvert me on this topic. Before I made Black Egypt Debunk, nobody got to arguing about that shit. When Dr. Ben wrote his book, The Black Man of the Nile, nobody had a problem with it. Yeah, the black man in the Nile, oh yeah, it's us black folk. Nobody had a problem with it. When the Nation of Islam used to always say, the black man is God, the black man is God. Everybody, yeah, the black man is God, yeah. Everybody knew at these times who black folk was, and they represented black folk. Nobody had a problem with Black History Month. They knew what history people are referring to when you talk about Black History Month. They're talking about African Americans, black folk, folk that was in them cotton fields of America, picking cotton. They knew exactly who Black History Month was for. Right? Now, everybody all of a sudden get dumb and get to playing semantics now to try to break my argument and muddy the waters and cause confusion amongst the people. So I said, let me make this video and nail it down. Yes, in science, not all sciences, in forensic anthropology, they still work under them terms. Show and prove, Chief X. Now, first of all, let me define this. Let me share my screen. Okay. What is forensic anthropology? Let's just kind of quickly look at what it is. Forensic anthropology is the study of human remains to solve crimes by applying physical anthropology and archaeological techniques. Forensic anthropologists analyze bones and other hard tissue to determine the identity of the deceased, how they died, and how long ago they died. They also assess trauma, reconstruct facial features, and estimate how long a corpse has been decomposed. Right? Follow me. So, let's be real. If there was a dead body that decomposed and they went under in someone's basement and they found a decomposed body and the skeletal remains there, they want to figure out what race the person was, excuse me, what sex the person was, and what kind of trauma, how did it happen, right? So, to figure out if the person was black, white, or Asian, forensic anthropologists use, still do, Negroid, Caucasoid, and Mongoloid in regards to skulls. I'm going to show and prove this, right? So I'm saying this because you are not going to subvert me from using the word Negroid because the ancient Egyptians were not Negroid. Forensic anthropology says so. Not just Chief X, right? So, um, let's do this again. Hold on. Let me make my point. Okay. So we read the definition of what forensic anthropology is and what a forensic anthropologist does, right? Now, even people who sell bones, since they don't try not to use the word negroid, caucasoid, mongoloid because people are sensitive these days, right? And they say, "Oh, it's not 100% accurate," which is true. It is about 85% accurate, right? And when you look at they sell these skulls, right? Instead of saying negroid, mongoloid, and caucasoid, they just simply say African, Asian, and European. It's okay, right? Right? This is bone clones, osteological reproductions, and they sell these things, right? This is what they do, right? Now, it says here race is a social construct, right? And what? Scientists argue. Because in some fields of science, they have to refer to Negroid, Caucasoid, Mongoloid in relation to skulls and things like that to figure out who the hell is who. What is this dead body? What's the sex and race of this dead body? Right? Now, here's an article that says, and we're going to break this down real quick. We're not going to be here long, y'all. Right? Let me get to the beginning of it real quick. Down to the bones, Binghamton University, state of New York. Down to the bones, facing forensic anthropology's legacy of race science. Right? Oops. And here's a student or a professor, right? Um, They said by themselves bones seem somewhat uniform to the untrained eye. They lack the traits that we often use to categorize fellow humans: hair texture, the straight shape of the nose, the eyes, skin pigmentation. Forensic anthropologists know that race isn't based on biological fact, but in history and culture that assigns meaning to physical traits that occur among different human populations. Why then are they still relying on a tool used from a field of negative roots in race science? There's a question there. Why then Oops. Let me get back to my highlighted question. Why then are they still relying on a tool from the field's negative roots in race science? Why, Chief X? It's okay, y'all. I landed upon a video by this lady, and her title, I believe she's a forensic anthropologist, right? Her title says, "Your skeleton." This is why I say in forensic anthropology, they still work with these terms because you have to. Your skeleton has a race, and that's okay. It is okay, people. Calm down. And we're going to listen to what she has to say. But first, I just wanted to show you the title of her video, right? Now, let me show you an actual forensic anthropologist at work using Negroid, Mongoloid, and Caucasoid to figure out what this dead body is or what this skull is. Okay? Let's go. Identification of skull, race, gender. Examining skull to determine race and gender. Well, how is he going to do that? Let's go.
To determine race and gender. First thing you do when you walk up to the table is you identify the skull. Which one do you have? In this case, it's number two. Doesn't mean it's always going to be number two. Keep in mind. The jaw and the skull are separate. They are not together. That's real world. Understand this is plastic. It's not real bone. It's just a representation of the skull that you see. So we have printed up. Comes out of your textbook, so you don't have to flip through there. There are different attributes of male and female. So you notice on this one, it's got the brow ridge, which is a male attribute.
Pause. So what he's going to do is try to figure out if this is a black person, a white person, or an Asian person. And he has to use these tactics and tools. Let's go.
Um, Also, it's kind of more defined. It's not a softer curve. Flip over to the next one, which is the female. The brow ridge is not as prominent on the female. Skull we have is more prominent brow ridge. You look at the back of the skull, it has the bump, the occipital condyle right there, which is what is a male attribute also. So that's two male attributes, three if you include the boxiness and sharp edges of a male. So make a list of what are male and female attributes, and majority goes to what it is. Because remember, skulls will have both male and female attributes. Majority rules. So make a list as you go.
It's only 3 more minutes of this video, and we're going to move forward.
Okay. We can pretty much guarantee, just from the three that we've observed, that this is probably a male skull. Now we need to determine race. So again, this is straight out of your textbook.
He's determining a race now, but I don't know if you can see clearly, but on this paper on this left, it says Mongoloid.
Uh, we're looking for attributes of the skull that would determine what is the race. You'll notice on this, take a straight edge and you line it up on the spots on the face that it will touch. Where does it line up? Where does it not touch? We're going to go ahead and sketch it out here, and then you can do it in a real skull. So I'm just going to lay the straight edge here on the on the nose ridge, and hits the teeth. It does not hit the nasal sill at the bottom. Look at the jawline. Uh, this has got an arch at the bottom, sagittal arch, or sagittal contour is arched, is what it's going to say. Look at the nose, the nasal opening. It's a little bit longer than it is wide, but still, it's a possibility. You look at it all. Look at the overall appearance of the skull. So let's go back and check what we have here. So mongoloid is mostly that. So mongoloid is mostly that. Have here. So mongoloid is mostly that. This is CAUCASOID. You're looking at the nasal opening. This is CAUCASOID. You're looking at the nasal. This is CAUCASOID. You're looking at the nasal opening. It's not as narrow on the CAUCASOID as what we have, and it's longer, so that's a possibility. You'll notice on the CAUCASOID also the nasal sill touches as well as the nasal brow, so keep that in mind. On the africoid, it's got on the africoid, it's got on the africoid, it's got the nasal sill is hardly present. The one we've got has got a nasal sill. So see right there. Again, CAUCASOID, but it's on a CAUCASOID it comes out farther. The nasal sill comes out farther than what we have. So probably not as a guess.
One more minute.
Just make sure you go over them all place. Mongoloid, we have a nasal sill like they have here. We have the sagittal contour is arched. If you look at the orbits, the eye holes are slightly sloped to the outside. So if I had to guess, I would just say this is a mongoloid male. So we're going to go ahead and record this on our handout if we're doing the test. But for this, I'm just going to rip off this thing and see what it is. And again, I didn't know going into this what this was, guys. So I may be totally wrong. Let me see. So this is human Asian male, which is mongoloid male. Yes.
He was actually Steve Wolvert, Forensic Science. Call him up and email him. They still use these things to figure it out. So I'm not wrong when I say black and negroid. Okay? He's a teacher. And to figure out was this skull black, white, or Asian, he had to go through and use those tools. So in forensic anthropology, yes, all that shit is legit today in 2024. Okay? Now, moving on from to him, and we're going to end this. This lady right here, she says, your skeleton has a race, and that's okay. And after her, we're going to end this video, and I'm making my point. Okay? Teach, lady.
Does a skeleton have a race? Would someone know your race just based on your skeletal structure and your cranial structure? I don't want to erase the grouping. I think the grouping is beautiful. The structure and your cranial structure. I don't want to erase the grouping. I think the grouping is beautiful. The grouping is diversity. But the hierarchy has got to go. Hi, I'm Danielle Romero, and I'm so glad that you're here with me today on my channel, where I've been researching what does it mean to be an American? How different groups that came to America became white. And the reason I've been doing that, if you're new to the channel, is that this whole channel started about a year ago, where I was interviewing my family members, trying to understand about my mom's grandmother. My mom's grandmother changed her identity and left the South and moved to New York in the 1930s. It's important to understand the history surrounding our family story, which is why I'm doing these videos. Let's dive in to the world of the cranium. Because we've been talking about how a lot of ethnic constructs are just that. They're kind of constructs, right? People are on a spectrum, and we can't just say someone's black or someone's white. But when we're talking about the skeleton, this is a little bit different. So
I told you. So when you're talking about physical anthropology, yeah, we got to kind of go there.
forensic, but when we're talking about the skeleton, this is a little bit different. So forensic anthropologists in particular have to really dive into this realm. Now, I'm not a person in particular. This is a little bit different. So forensic anthropologists in particular have to really dive into this realm. Now, I'm not a person that can hang and listen to true crime podcasts. Let me know if that's something you do. I know some people actually like listen to them to relax. I'm too much of a baby. So this is about as deep as I can go into forensic anthropology. But we need to talk, first of all, that cranial features are not infallible indicators of ancestry. In fact, the most seasoned forensic anthropologists say that there's only about 85% accuracy in assessing.
It's 85% accuracy. Now, the guy I showed you before, he was on point and got it right. In general, you're going to get it right and figure out if someone's Negroid, CAUCASOID, or MONGLOID. But it's not 100% accurate. There's a lot of race mixing these days, so things and wordings had to change. But in general, this shit is accurate.
Racial ancestry based on multiple cranial features. Now, I hear a number like 85%. I think that's really high. It sounds like a very accurate thing, but it's not 100%. Here's the catch. The less we know about the context surrounding a skull, that is like where it was found and things like that, the less accurate the assessments become. So there's a lot of other information that's going into these assessments. So what are the traits that vary between skulls of different racial backgrounds? Does a skeleton have a race? Would someone know your race just based on your skeletal structure and your cranial structure? The influential figure who contributed significantly to the scientific concept of race was Johann Friedrich Blumenbach. Now, he put a special emphasis, though, on the study of skulls and reduced diversity of skulls to 5 main varieties. He was born in Germany, and he made notable strides in comparative anatomy and anthropology, and he left a lasting legacy in this field. He emphasized the unity of humanity and refuted the notion of distinct species or subspecies of humans. But he classified humans into 5 distinct races based on physical characteristics. And we're talking mostly about the cranial characteristics of.
So now on this chart, this categorization, categorization, European, Asian, African. They're just basically saying Caucasoid, Mongoloid, and Negroid. Calm down, people.
The skull. Caucasoid, Mongoloid, Ethiopian, American, and Malay. However, it's important to note that his classification system was based on superficial features and did not take into account the complexities of genetic diversity or ancestry. The thing that popped up in my mind when I was researching this was, well, at what point of mixing between these groups do you get a whole different kind of a skull that doesn't really match either of these? It's just a question that I have. Let's dive in and see what these 5 skulls look like, and let me know what you think. Most of these traits
4 more minutes and we're done here.
that they're looking at kind of reside.
Pause. On the right, it says Sub-Saharan African skull. Yes, people still say Sub-Saharan African. I do. It's a great description of who you're speaking of. Sub-Saharan African is different than a North African. Okay? Understand that.
In the face or the palate, and these are like subtle clues about a person's
Sub-Saharan African is not a racist.
ancestral origins. For instance, the shape of the eye orbits, they said, can be indicative
As you see, Negroid, Mongoloid, Caucasian, right there. They still do this in forensic anthropology.
of
So when I say the ancient Egyptians were not Negroid, that's what the fuck I mean. Since you didn't want me to use black, I started using Negroid.
somebody's ancestry. Now, I'm not talking about the shape of the eyes per se, but we're talking about the actual orbital bone. And according to this taxonomy, Africans often exhibit a more rectangular shape, while East Asians lean toward a circular configuration, and Europeans tend to sport what could be likened to, they say, aviator glasses, which I don't know, it just seemed hilarious to me. Now, moving down to the nasal region, they point out further distinctions. Europeans often have a pronounced angulation that divide the nasal floor from the interior surface of the maxilla, while Africans tend to lack such a sharp angulation. Asians, on the other hand, fall somewhere in between. And the nasal bridge often displays variation, which I think this one's a
Sub-Saharan, my people.
little bit easier to see. With Africans boasting an arching shape, Europeans have high nasal bones with a peaked angle, and Asians usually possess low nasal bones with a slight angulation. He goes on to talk about nasal aperture, which is the opening of the nostrils. He said Africans tend to have wider openings, Europeans tend to have more narrow ones. And lastly, they talk about the zygomatic form. We're talking about the cheekbone. Asians tend to have cheekbones that project anteriorly, so like they're going out more. Europeans and Africans have cheekbones that are more lateral, causing it to recede a little bit. Blumenbach mostly stayed scientific when he was doing this, except for one skull he called was that the Caucasian skull of a Georgian female he thought was, quote, most handsome and becoming. So I guess he had an affinity for Georgian females from the Caucasus region. And Blumenbach attributed differences to these human types, such as variation in stature and color, largely to climate. His assumption was that people had started from one place, and as they spread out, things started evolving depending on what climate they were in and what was necessary or not necessary based on the environment they were living in. And that humans are all born red. So he said color cannot constitute a species or variety. Actually, Blumenbach refuted the notion that Ethiopians were inferior to other races. And he wrote favorably about the, quote, Negroes in his writing, extolling their beauty, their mental abilities, and achievements in literature and other fields. The article continues. And he pointed to variations in opportunity as the cause of differences. I was researching some forensic anthropology classwork where they actually, you're learning all of this stuff and you're using this to identify people, right? When we're trying to piece together clues. So they have exercises where you will look at cranial casts, so they're not real skulls, and of people of different ancestries. And then there's one mystery skull. And you have to carefully examine the features and kind of figure out, okay.
A mystery skull. She's saying what I showed you in the previous video, where the guy had to figure out what race the skull was. This is what they do in school too. This is what she's telling you.
And of people of different ancestries. And then there's one mystery skull. And you have to carefully examine the features and kind of figure out, okay, which group does this skull belong to? There's something being held in tension here, because on one hand, I know people get upset and have been accused of being a Marxist and a communist for saying that I don't believe people should be called black or white. And that's not me erasing ethnic diversity. I actually feel like it's celebrating that by saying, hey, two groups is not enough to define human beings. Let's get rid of those two groups and kind of dive in deeper to our ancestry. But on the other end, you've got this taxonomy of just a handful of groups that a person can fit into. And I think it's really interesting to look at and say, hey, does this really fit? Now, to be completely honest, the idea of measuring skulls and stuff gives me a bad vibe. It really reminds me a lot of what was happening in Nazi Germany, where they're measuring skulls and they're making determinations based on someone's intelligence and things like that. And I think there's a fine line between that. I think This is a neutral thing. Like it's not bad or good to look at a skull and say, hey, like, can we sort this? I have a 4 year old and he's learning how to sort and categorize right now. When we're sorting and categorizing, does something have in common? And how can we group things? And it's not necessarily a bad thing to group, right? It's kind of inherent to human nature. I think the
It's
problem
okay to categorize and group things. We know it's in technically things are so, but it is okay to categorize and group things to learn and to communicate.
is not the grouping, but the hierarchy that comes from the grouping. And I think that is the problem. I don't want to erase the grouping. I think the grouping is beautiful. The grouping is diversity. But the hierarchy has got to go. This is something you take with a grain of salt. But I still feel like 85% was a pretty high success rate. Let me know what you think, and I will see you soon.
All right. Thanks. Good looking out, lady. So the title of her video says, Your skeleton has a race, and that's okay. It's okay. Right? So, one more thing before we get out of here. Um, what else did I want to say? So, that's about it. So, this is why I use the term Negroid. In forensic anthropology, they do also. And they're just trying to figure it all out. Right? Um, so, this is why in this community recently, everybody's playing dumb and don't know what a black person is no more. That's why everybody's playing dumb. Oh, Negro, it's an outdated word. They're all trying to make themselves be an ancient Egyptian still, or be in some way related to the ancient Egyptians, or try to consider the ancient Egyptians black folk. It's just not so. The forensic anthropology on North Africans is different than the forensic anthropology on sub Saharan Africans. Okay? Thank you, Stoic. It was something else I wanted to say. Um, 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 um. Well, that's about it. So, y'all, don't get your panties all in a bunch. I'm out.